Take 1 minute and get centered again. Now, before that has any meaning, before that has any application power to where we want to do that, we got to realize when we're not centered. So it's a two-step thing, right? I would say that realizing that we're not centered can be more of a challenge for somebody than taking the minute to get recentered. They both can be kind of challenging. I'll say why. The ego in the mind doesn't want to admit that it's not centered. This is the first thing. You got to have enough consciousness and awareness and self-honesty to know when you're off center. That's why it's a good introspection to constantly introspect all the time. It shouldn't be force. It should come natural. I love doing introspection. I cannot not do it. I'm introspecting as I'm talking sometimes. It goes on automatically. Something's just feeling. Am I one with my words? Is this flowing? I'm not thinking. I'm not thinking about the introspection. It's just something that's feeling it. It's doing it automatic. That's what happens. At first, though, I don't know, maybe years ago, I had to maybe be a little disciplined and actually take some time out and then look and see, where am I at right now? In my day, what have I done? Just look back in the first few hours. How did I engage with others? What was my attitude? Did I get mad at somebody or resentful? Why? Why? Did they trigger me somehow? Did they reveal some insecurity I had that I didn't know I had, but then I didn't want to admit that, so then I lashed back out at them and tried to flip it on them? Did I come direct with somebody and maybe I hurt their feelings? Was that authentic? Was I being used as a karmic instrument because they were doing something stupid and spirit wanted to assert itself like that? Or is that justification? Did I really want to hurt them because I felt hurt emotionally? This is real deal introspection. If I'm doing a job or if I'm doing something, if I'm engaged in an activity, am I too attached to the projected outcome? Do I have a projected outcome? Do I really want this to work out a certain way? And if I see it not going that way, does self-talk start? Like, oh, it's not going this way. Oh, these people are stupid. They don't understand. This is the best way that it needs to happen, and they're not doing it. And am I starting to get resentful at them? And then am I starting to maybe on a subtle level character assassinate them when I'm working with them doing something because I'm trying to get them to follow my program? And then do they retaliate back? And then do I retaliate more back? All these little subtle things. And this happens in spiritual groups all the time. But they don't check it because they're spiritual. So I got to look at all that. So that's how you know. You know if you're off center. You feel like, wait a minute, because you can feel vibration. Somebody asked me about energy. I got to answer that question later. I don't think I answered that comment yet. It says, what are you talking about? You talk about energy. What's energy? Energy is vibration. You can feel the energy of a certain situation. If you were with a cold-blooded killer that liked to hurt people and you were talking to him, you'd feel something there. Like something's pretty heavy and dark. I give extreme examples because it makes illustrative purposes easier. Then you're talking to some holy person, Muji or Papaji or somebody, Nazo Sargata. So you're talking to them. They got a different energy. There's something clean and pure about them. You just gravitate toward them. You like being around them. The cold-blooded killer, you're like, I got to go do something right now. That's energy. So that's happening all the time. You're just always feeling the energy. You feel the energy in nature. It has a certain energy. You go back into town with all the human minds talking, that's a certain energy. It's energy. So you recognize in your own self what your quality of energy is. Are you caught up in mind or ego or heaviness or something? Once you catch that, that's the first step, remember? You got to catch that you're not centered. Okay, you caught it. Now, take 1 minute and get centered. That's what we're talking about here. So It's easier to do introspection when you're used to doing it. Then you can catch these things out all the time. I just want to say that. Take 1 minute and get centered once you realize you're off center. Now, the mind, see, the mind's there. It's going to try to sabotage that too. It's like, the mind's like, you got the first step. Okay, we got to sabotage the second step. How's it do that? It says, oh man, you're cool. Just stop doing. Just you're engaged in some mental projection. Just withdraw from it. Now, if you're at a high enough level, you can do that. But a lot of times, the mind will say, yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to be resentful of this person. But the resentfulness goes deeper. It's still there. It's still there as a vibration, as an energy. But you're overlooking it. You're sweeping it under the rug. That's why, like, these exercises sometimes, like that Muji talks about, or others, a meditation to come back into presence. The mind can say, man, I already know how to do that though. Like, I'm cool. No. We need humility, and we need to understand that as long as we're wearing this virtual suit, there needs to be some intestinal fortitude and discipline and willingness to check ourselves when we need to be checked, and then to bring ourselves back. This is duality, non-duality. You can't skip that. You don't reach a state of non-duality to where duality don't exist anymore. They're two opposite sides of the same coin. Pure consciousness doesn't know anything about non-duality or duality. So when you know you're off center, I've shared before in another video, you just the awareness alone is starting to bring you back to the center, you see. So cooperate with that. Let intuition guide you on how to melt your mind and your localized consciousness back into the pure consciousness. See, I can't give a technique on how that looks, because that depends on your character and constitution, your level of consciousness, the particular moment, what's going on in the moment. So I can't, it's impossible. But what I can say, be aware that you're off center. That already is you're exhibiting a certain level of humility and surrender, because you're admitting, whoa, I'm off center. You can even say a prayer, God, help me get back centered, and be open to listen. Meditation's listening to how this higher self is guiding its lower self back into itself. And intuition will tell you. Maybe you'll continue doing the activity, but you'll shut down the mind. Like, I'm not thinking, I'm just gonna do this and keep my attention in the consciousness in which this activity is happening in. I'm just staying there now. And then intuition will tell you when you can engage on a more, there's a lot of flies, on a more active level with whatever you're doing when the time's right. When you're centered enough, intuition will say, okay, now you can focus a little more on what you're doing and maybe participate more, whatever that looks like in that moment, because you'll have your center. You won't, and your center will be doing it, as opposed to your off center. See, if we're doing something without any kind of connection with our center, then we can get lost in the movie magic of things. We can get lost in people's, what they're saying. We can get lost in our own thoughts. And all of a sudden we incarnate more into this dream world. And then we got to take the repercussions that come from that, which is delusion. That's going to always happen on some level. But what we're trying to catch it out sooner. This is the evolutionary game. We catch that stuff out sooner. Some people live their whole life and they don't catch it out. Some people live half their life and then they start to catch it out. They find a spiritual practice or something. Those who have a spiritual practice, maybe at the beginning, you catch it out a week later, and then maybe a day later, and then you catch it out an hour later. And then when you get really seasoned with it, you start catching it out really quick, within a minute, maybe 5 seconds. You feel energetically when you're off your center. Okay? And we don't know. The growth can be exponential. See, the mind will say, "Oh, but this is going to take forever. I don't know. We don't know. We don't know how this works." You make an effort now. What else do we have to do? What better way can we use our life except for self-realization anyway? So who cares if it takes forever? But it doesn't. That's the thing. We make a start. Let grace determine how long it takes for us to get more absorbed in our true self, because we don't know. Let's say you came into this practice when you were 20 and you're 40 years old. You're like, oh man, it's been 2 decades and I'm still like, I don't feel I'm where I'm at yet, where I'm supposed to be. It's okay. You keep going. What if your last breath, let's say you die when you're 70, but then your last breath, it just kind of all culminated, like the ego structure, superstructure just dismantled. Then does it even matter that it took your whole life to do that? It doesn't even matter anymore. You see? So don't let the mind's there with everything. It wants to trip us up on every level. You have to just, as we evolve, we catch it more and more and more. You catch it more and more and more. It's fun after a while. Like, it would be boring, actually, if the mind wasn't there playing the role of the antagonist or the devil or whatever. You get to where you appreciate it and you understand this is part of creation. There can't be an awakening without an opposition for awakening. You see, it's all part of the game. Don't take it serious and personal. When we take it serious and personal, things become heavy and everything becomes really important. I got to get this awakening now and I can't do it. And you just total, that's not God speaking. That's the mind speaking. The mind will say, yeah, you need to get it. What's wrong with you? You know? All right, there's too many bugs out. I'll see you later.